What's up, everyone? This podcast is brought to you by My Place Hotels. My Place is proud to be the official hotel sponsor of FrontStretch.com. With plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly hotels, My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Racing fans, use promo code FrontStretch to save 10% on your stay on any of our nationwide properties. That's 10% off nationwide with code FrontStretch. This racing season, be sure to make My Place your place. Now, on to happy hour.
There are races I remember all my life. In Darlington, some were great, but all were better than that snooze fest on Sunday sun. All these races have their moments where faster cars can pass other cars, but on Sunday that didn't happen. In that race, couldn't pass at all. In that race, couldn't pass at all.
Welcome on into happy hour. Trey Lyle, Dalton Hopkins here. Dalton, how are you doing? I mean, I guess, Puke Combs decided to show up. He decided to unretire after last week. And, Massie has been begging us to come back. And we need to quickly, do we let him back?
Yeah, sure. Why not? He gave us that song just now.
He did.
I guess he's earned it. As long as he doesn't cry about Rusty Wallace now being 12th on the all-time wins list.
Yeah, and how Denny Hamlin is clearly better than him.
Clearly better in every
Clearly
way.
I mean, as he's muted.
Let's keep him. Okay.
Make sure he's back. I'm quitting again. I don't want any part of this just slander of an absolute legend.
Look who's agreeing with us. Brian Nolan here.
Hey, he was a Dale Jarrett fan. Both of them are better than Dale Jarrett.
I don't know who Hamling is, but he is also better than
Hamling is.
Oh, and by a landslide. All right, we should. So, unfortunately, our planned guest this week, if you listen to, I think I said it on the watch party, I said it on Bringing the Heat, and I said it on this podcast. Kenny Wallace is unable to join us, but good news, we have locked him in for next week. But our show will be Monday, 7:30, right here on the YouTube channel. So we're gonna be a day early next week, just to be sure we can get Kenny Wallace in. So make sure you tune into that. We'll try to remind you throughout the week. Of course, this podcast is brought to you by My Place Hotels. Shout out to My Place Hotels. As I read the ad read at the top, and reminder: 10% off your stay with promo code FrontStretch. We'll talk more about that throughout the podcast. Massie, how was it quitting? How quickly did you beg Tom for your job back?
Oh, it was a long time before I begged him back, because me and Puke Combs, I went to be his agent out in Nashville.
Got it.
And we toured Nashville briefly. He got on stage at a karaoke bar there in Nashville and sang. And you know what? The crowd went wild, and Puke just said, this whole fame thing, it's just not cut out for me. And so he quit. And then I'm his manager, so I'm left with nothing. So then I had to call Tom back. And I will say about Kenny Wallace, I do feel confident he'll be on next week, because he felt so bad about having to cancel us this week that I think the guilt alone will bring him here next week. So let's lock it in. Kenny Wallace next week.
Monday, 7:30, right here. We're on YouTube. We're going to be on Twitch. We're on Twitch now, by the way, guys. So I don't know what that means for us, but apparently Front Stretch is on Twitch. And
we're going to have a Let's Play channel here soon. So stay tuned for that, I guess. That was a joke.
Okay, I was going to say,
we're not doing that. Just kidding.
Actually, turns out, surprise, Dalton's going to be playing video games every night on our phone.
It's going to be NASCAR Thunder 2004, and there's going to be 200 episodes of it.
Oh, I mean, that's not a bad pick. You know, fun fact, we should really get into the show, but this weekend, I may or may not have found my PlayStation 2 version of NASCAR Thunder 2003. So that got buried in like the stuff I packed in my house. So shout out to that. That felt good.
Every once in a while, there's a playlist on Spotify that's the NASCAR Thunder 2004.
I have that. I have that exact playlist saved and ready to go.
It is truly. We're just deciding to throwback this week instead of last week, unlike what NASCAR did. But truly an all-time video game playlist, like NBA 2K. If you, I think I played that more than you two. I'm just gonna go out on a limb based off of how much I like basketball compared to you two.
I did play it, but you probably played it more.
They had some pretty good. But NASCAR Thunder 03, like Magic Carpet Ride, you know, you don't know, you know. I'm not gonna sing.
2004 had Avenged Sevenfold in it.
Shout
out to everybody watching. If you played NASCAR Thunder 2004, go ahead and comment your favorite song.
I was gonna say in the comments, pick your favorite NASCAR video game. NASCAR Thunder 2004, NASCAR Thunder 03. 03 for me is number one because that was like my first one.
Those are definitely people on P2. Dirt to Daytona.
I will say this.
Oh, yeah.
I will say this. I like NASCAR Thunder, NASCAR 2006 Total Team Control too.
It was good, yeah.
Because I love to do is like take the 4-car teams and get the guy into first, and then switch the next guy, get the guy to second, switch the guy, get the guy to third.
I bought DEI in that game, and that's what I would do every race. I would just have us all in the top 4.
I'd be like, and then I would just tell everyone to block behind me.
I bought Penny Enterprises and had Kyle Petty win at New Hampshire, the same place his son passed. It was It's a mental moment for me.
Emotional win.
Also, I will throw in, you can half see what I have this week on my television. It's another classic NASCAR race. If you can guess what race it is, you'll
2002 Bristol Night Race.
You're incorrect. Massey knows the answer because I told him before it started. But if you get it right, I will show it. I will show you on the screen. It is a Bristol Night Race, so you're getting there.
I gotta be close. Oh, never mind. Okay, we're going on. Yeah, go ahead.
We should probably start the podcast.
We should do that.
People are listening are like, what the bleep? Because I'm not going to edit that. It's going on. All right, so as always, sit back, relax, crack open that cold one, unless you're driving, of course, or if you're, under the age of 21. Let's get right into this. Michael Massie, you are first, and the driver that you could argue had the most impact on the race this past weekend was a guy who was 160 laps down. And yes, he did retire from quitting. That's kind of how we put it. But
thanks, Wyatt.
But the guy who was 160 laps down, but also might, is some people's, could be best ever. So you get to talk about Kyle Larson.
Yeah. So, obviously there was that whole debate last year of Kyle Larson and Max Verstappen over who's the greatest driver right now. And then after that, Larson had made boneheaded mistake after boneheaded mistake after that whole debate started. And now it coined the term on Door Bumper Clear, hung money. And I don't want to explain that for you, but you can go listen to that show and after you listen to this and find out what that means. But we saw another example of hung money on Sunday where the best driver in the world not only wrecked by himself on lap 3. Was it lap 3 or lap 4?
I think it was 3.
I think it was 3.
Yeah.
He wrecked and then They come back out there at 160 laps down. He can't, like, he could pick up one spot, but if you're worse than 35th, you only get 1 point anyway. So he couldn't gain any more points. And
he could. He technically could. He technically could get the fastest lap.
Fastest lap. That's true.
So,
but your car's got damage, so are you really going to get the fastest lap?
Yeah, I think Bob put it right. He's like, technically you could, but with the damage, you couldn't. So.
Yeah. So, and then in the closing laps, Ryan Blaney has just cleared Tyler Reddick and looks like he is on his way to the win. Reddick has a moment in front of Larson. Larson has to check out. Bubba gets into the back of Larson, and it's a bookend of cautions by the 5 car in one of the best throwback paint schemes. And it's just, what do we make of this? It's another deal of Kyle Larson. First off, what do you guys think about Larson having these 2 incidences if he's the supposed greatest? And secondly, should a car 160 laps down still be out there with 10 to go?
Yeah, I have quite a few thoughts on this. First off, I want to call out Trey right now. Okay, I 100% just got it right. All right, I totally got the year of that race behind you. Well
oh shit, you did.
That is 2001.
Well, you're not supposed to reveal it.
We're for folks listening and watching. We're commenting off to the side, and I'm like, that is 2001, and he goes to 04, and I'm like, that is not 04.
So I was trying to find 04, but the only one that has the NASCAR version doesn't have the cool TNT graphics. And so the only version of that is like an old VHS copy, and it wasn't good. So this is, you're right. I looked at the wrong.
I was watching it for a second. I was like, wow, could it be? And then I saw Jason Leffler in the 01, and I'm like, no, that is 2001.
Sorry, I was quickly doing this before the show. I might go back this way, and I'm going to switch to what I was doing.
Hey, listeners, guess who won the race without looking it up?
The 2001 Sharpie 500.
To you watchers out there, I'll give you a hint. He is behind me. His name is displayed behind me in all capital letters. Anyway, yeah, we should probably get to that topic. We should probably get to Kyle Larson. So, funny story. So here's actually a really funny story. And that'll lead into our topic. So I'm at Darlington this weekend with Trenton, and we're both Massie, you've been there. You know what I'm talking about here. We're both. Oh, Trey, you have been too. We're both at the photo tower that's in turn 1. If you go in the infield in turn 1, there is this photo tower that leans over. It's directly over where the pit exit is. Trenton and I and Noah Lewis and Peter Estrada and a bunch of other and Dustin Long and a bunch of other journalists, we're all out there. Yes, he did. And we're all out there. Okay. All right. We're going to do this right now. Dale Jr. won in 2004. No, I'm talking about 2004.
Yeah, you're right.
01.
I'm watching 01. Remember, we went over this. We switched it. It was on 01. You're right.
Okay. All right. There was a miscommunication, everybody. Massie's talking crap in our comment section right now.
Congratulations. You actually win the prize.
Noah wins. Okay. Thank you, Noah. So anyway, but we're in the section overlooking the start of the race.
Wyatt, you're wrong.
They get the video of the cars starting into turn 1. And I remember Trenton looks at me and he goes, watch them crash on lap 3. And the moment we get back into the media center, we have to go to the care center. And I laugh and I'm like, oh man, right? Like that would be the worst because the Darlington Care Center is so far from the media center. It's just ridiculous. It's a ridiculous path. And sure enough, the moment I get by my chair, the media center, I pull it out, get ready to sit down. I look up and Kyle Larson's crashed on the backstretch.
The funny part is I could recreate Dalton's reaction.
Oh, I bet you could.
I've seen it.
Yeah. It was frustrating. Everybody in the media center saw it. I was like, oh.
But we're not allowed to say it because he would be like, he would do something on the lines of, and then go.
That was so it was a little bit more subdued than that, but you're not too far off.
Oh, trust me, I may or may not have saw that once or twice.
So
last time I
upon
was at Darlington.
yeah, so upon my hike to the media center, 2 miles away from the care center, or excuse me, upon my hike to the care center, 2 miles away from the media center, I kept thinking, wow, how is Kyle Larson the first one to crash? I think that's really interesting. And I remember talking to I think I'm talking to Peter on the way there, friend of the show, Peter Strada, and he says, I remember telling him, I'm like, he's either wrecking himself to win the race or he's dominating. And today is just. And he's he starts laughing and he says it's completely correct. He said that's absolutely true. So I think that goes to show how hard Kyle Larson fights, even from lap 1, to get to the lead and start dominating the race. And as far as the 160 laps down goes, I know they said, oh, well, he needs to gain a position. He can still gain a position and gain a point. Every point matters. And I remember I tweeted that it's like it's mathematically impossible for him to gain any positions. I was wrong on that account, but it was mathematically impossible to gain points because the only person he could have passed, even after being that many laps down, once he returned to the racetrack, was J.J. Yaley, who was in 37th. Kyle Larson was in 38th. Both of those positions only earn 1 point. So there's no advantage whatsoever. But we heard from Cliff Daniels afterward, and Cliff Daniels said it's just about training these guys. It's about getting these guys ready to not give up fighting, to not give up the repairs, and to be able to get this car back on the racetrack as soon as possible when they actually do get into the championship contention. So with all that said, I feel like that was one of the bigger stories of the weekend. Trey, I talked a lot just now. I'm really curious about what you think.
Yeah, it was a great point interrupted by some silliness by us, which is basically
I do see the 2004 race behind you now, so we've corrected that.
I've switched it. I switched it. Now you have the correct winner. Just to catch up,
by the way.
Just to catch up, Noah, you're right. It was Tony Stewart that won in 2001.
Noah wins again.
Dale Jr. won in 2004, so we're gonna get to that. Brian actually brings up, guys, that let's frame this moment. Brian Nolan brings up a good point. It's what everyone wanted with the new DVP policy. And actually, I think with the Larson thing, Cliff was probably right. Just to get a rep, because imagine this is the round of 8 and you need 1 point. And just by going back out there and doing this, you get 1 point. We're in a world where if Tyler Reddick doesn't run into the wall, Larson doesn't react the way he does, trying to just completely get out of the way, slam on brakes, and Bubba Wallace doesn't spin him out. And then Ryan Blaney wins, and we're not in this part where why is Larson out there, and what X, Y, and Z is happening. Like we could talk more about Larson's mistake early on in the race, and that was more of the hung money thing. Like Kyle Larson is a driver that just I think goes to the razor's edge every week, and sometimes he steps on, his thing leg, and he makes these mistakes, but that's what makes Kyle Larson so good. I mean, just so the reason Kyle Larson was so good at Homestead is he goes to the razor's edge. The reason why he's so good at Darlington, he goes to the razor's edge. By the way, lock it up. Southern 500 will be won by Kyle Larson. Because typically, if he wrecks at one, he wrecks at the other. He wins the other. But this is, I believe, 5 straight spring Darlington races he's wrecked at.
Oh wow! I was there. I haven't heard that statistic.
Because if we go back, he wrecked last year. He spun in the Labonte car. He in the Tony Stewart throwback where you and I were there, he wrecked. Remember with Ross? He spun in the Hendrick car. And I'm trying to that's 4 or 5 races, right? So 20 we were in 20 this is 25.
I've got Racing Reference up right now, but continue. I'm gonna figure this out.
Cause I saw some tweet about it, but it was he is it seems to me that he's literally checkers or wreckers at Darlington. And you know, the end of the race thing, a freak thing. I honestly was okay with him going back out there. You know, he wasn't going to maximize the most points because I think Cliff Daniels is right in terms of imagine this being a later year in the scenario, and the team, if a team has a rep of fixing the nose like it did and getting the car back out there, it's going to do it faster, which could mean more points, which could be the difference between advancing and not. So I'm fine with it. It was a freak thing that caused that wreck at the end where like literally 3 things had to line up exactly the way they did for Larson to spin out, which was Reddick hit the wall like he did, causing Larson to react, which caused Wallace, who was running a low line, trying to get his lap back and be the lucky dog. So he's going to be aggressive, hit Larson in the back unexpectedly and spin out. Like it wasn't like, you know, Bo Wallace was trying to, you know, people were talking about like the watch party. They were all just, including this guy right here. Wyatt was like, I think Wallace is going to hold Blaney up. And, you know, I was like, no, he's not, because the last guy to be suspended for race manipulation was the spotter of the 23. Like, I don't think the 23 is going to be involved at all in this. They're going to try to avoid messing up the finish anyway. Plus, let me check my notes here. Who's Bo Wallace's best friend in the whole wide world? Ryan Blaney.
Yeah.
Let's just, so for those people that want to get conspiracy theory and the tinfoil hats, like GTFO, as for the Kyle Larson thing, this is Kyle Larson being Kyle Larson. And, you know, he steps over it sometimes, but for him, it's like kind of what makes him great. So, you know, it's kind of like the Ross aggression thing that, you know, he stepped over it one too many times. He pissed someone off and he got kind of forced to calm down, and he hasn't been good since. Like, you just kind of got to let the guys be the guys. And I'm going to keep letting Kyle Larson be Kyle Larson, and I'm going to feel if he makes these mistakes, he makes these mistakes. But more often than not, he's not going to make these mistakes, and he's going to, you know, end up in victory lane.
I don't have a problem with the lap 3 wreck because, yeah, he's got to be that aggressive. And look at how the race was. You could not pass. So he had to get that position right there that moment. He wasn't. Yeah, he was going to be stuck behind. Yeah. I think it was Logano maybe he was trying to pass.
Yeah,
let's be stuck behind him the next 50 laps probably.
This is all tied together. Who you know, Bubba Wallace was a top 5 car for the first half of the race until a poorly timed caution that probably shouldn't have been called forces him to be back in the 20s where he couldn't pass.
Yeah, like Ryan Preece, same deal. Like
there was one car that could pass at that racetrack this weekend, and we're gonna get to that, and it's Ryan Blaney.
But so I don't blame him for that. I don't blame them for him going back out there either. As you guys have said, get the reps, get that experience, get any notes for Darlington you can get. And I like the DVP the way it is now, where you can go back out there several laps down and keep running. What I had a problem with was it being 10 laps to go and him still being in the line. Like, that's the point. It's 10 to go. The leaders are coming on you. And you can clip that for the certain page that people post stuff on. But the leaders are catching you. And you should just pull down out of the groove and ride around the apron the last 10 laps or so. Instead, he's in the line where, because a lead lap car slows down in front of him, he hits the brakes. If he's not in the groove, Bubba Wallace does not run into the back of him. So what are you doing there? What are you doing, Cliff? Just tell him to get out the way at that point. There's nothing to gain, everything to lose. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. People grilled, the Austin Dillon Richmond win last year. People grilled Stenhouse, and I forget who he was racing with, for spinning, going for 25th that late in the race. I feel like this is the same kind of deal where what is he doing?
No, I thought it was contact with Dillon or something like that. Like, I can't
No,
remember.
it was like two guys racing for 25th.
I know it was, but it was like right in front of Austin Dillon. Like that was another big part of this.
It could have been, but yeah, maybe they're probably trying to stay on lead lap. But I don't. I'd have to look it back up. But yeah, that's the problem I have.
Too many races.
The fact that it was 10 to go. The leaders had caught him, and he's still in the racing groove, taking up space. That's, in the old days, back before double fall restarts, with 10 to go, they would send the lap down cars to the rear of the field. And I don't know. I just didn't like him being a factor there.
Any more thoughts on this, Dalton?
I don't know if I will say it's like I also questioned why would you return to the racetrack even after he passed JJ Yaley and gained the non-existent point that they didn't gain. By the way, Trey, regarding earlier, it was the last 4 he's crashed in.
Okay.
But in 23, but no, you're right. But in 23, he did not DNF. He still finished in 20th, and actually in 22 it was an engine failure.
So he just really doesn't like Terry Labonte. That's what I'm taking away from it.
Maybe Darlington doesn't like Terry Labonte, or the throwback gods don't like Terry Labonte. But either way, yeah, I have to agree. Like once you pass JG Yaley and you gain a little bit of laps, like over the 44 car, what's the point? I mean, because you've already trained the pit crew to continue fighting, to continue, get the car back out on the racetrack and get them ready for what could be the postseason, what could be a point in the postseason where you gain an extra point. But once you've done that, you're just a moving chicane because you're too slow. And then you do something like that in the last 3 laps, which not only kill your car and cost you even more money, but you also ruin the chances of, another driver. And I've seen a lot of the conspiracy theories that maybe Kyle did that on purpose and maybe he was doing that to help William Byron to get his chances back out there. But
Noah brings up a good point.
But NASCAR, okay, so here's what Noah said. It's the same idiots who kept saying Hamlin sped on pit road, but NASCAR rigged it for him and Toyota. Do you really think they would rig it for the man who was suing them? Use your heads. No, I 100% agree. I feel like people just want to clutch to their aluminum foil, their tin foil hats, and assume that there's foul play at work. I don't think there is. I feel like that's just was a bad time for Kyle to hit the brakes after what happened with Tyler Reddick, and not to mention there was that bump off turn 4, turn 2, which he already displayed he was having trouble with. So it's really not that far-fetched to think that, no, that was just a mistake that occurred and them's the brakes sometimes. So I think it was cool they fought to get back out there. I think it was cool that we saw a car that was that many laps down get back out in the racetrack. But I think we also need to get smarter moving forward. And maybe that's why it happened. We haven't done that in a while. We've had this DVP for so long that maybe Cliff Daniels and the rest of the pit crew, maybe they don't have as many reps, and that's why they did this. And maybe we'll get better moving forward.
Yeah, indeed. So it's just, a good conversation going on between Brian and Wyatt. So I'll shout out those two in the comments section. If you want to see that, just check out the Front Stretch YouTube channel to see our comment section. But we need to move on to our next topic. And Dalton, you now come into the focus. And we mentioned the one car that could pass is Ryan Blaney. And it feels like there has been a handful of races this season where Ryan Blaney easily could have won as you're chugging a beatbox.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This is happy hour. You can chug beatboxes during it.
Juice.
I'm not going to display your last comment, by the way, Wyatt. But I that just threw me off. But Ryan Blaney,
Wyatt,
you could have.
Bad boy.
He could have easily won this race. Obviously, he was basically in position to win, and then he had, was it Phoenix? He had the engine failure and he was leading, or he was one of the better cars. He had 2 engine failures this season.
It was Homestead. You're thinking of Homestead. Yeah.
Homestead. So I know you wanted to talk about Ryan Blaney and his kind of insane bad luck this season.
Well, I want to talk about Throwback Weekend, but
oh shoot, I have my notes mixed
yeah, you've done it again.
Right.
That's okay.
So wait,
okay.
No. Time out. Time out. I'm fixing this. All right. So I'm gonna talk about Ryan Blaney, and then we'll talk about Throwback Weekend because I have 2 topics, so we can separate it. So Ryan Blaney has had bad luck, obviously. I think the most damning stat, which you can argue another guy's had bad luck, is what happens when we make last minute changes right before the podcast starts on who's doing what topics.
Yeah. Forgive us, folks. We had to do a lot of scrambling in these last couple of hours.
So it's kind of interesting, right? So this is from Daniel Cespedes on Twitter. Ryan Blaney's average finish of 18.3 is 7.76 positions worse than his average running position of 10.37, which is the largest deficit among Cup drivers. The only one in his stratosphere is another guy we could talk about is Bubba Wallace, who's at minus 7.29. Those the 2 big outliers here, which positive side of things shows they've had speed. They've been running up front. They just have not been getting the finishes. So my question, especially when it comes to Ryan Blaney, because it feels like he could have had 2 or 3 wins this season and they were just taken from him with bad luck. Or bad pit crew. Like this week was just a bad pit crew. It was nothing with Ryan Blaney. Do you think this lack of good finishes at the start of the season will haunt him as we get later on?
I do, because I think the way it is with this car, it's like people get on hot streaks, and you got to take advantage of it when your team is on the hot streak. Case in point, Joey Logano last year gets the hot streak at the end of the year, wins the championship. Whereas
he went on a hot streak.
Like
he got
Bell,
his fuel tank got lucky.
Yeah, but still, he was in position. But like Bell had his hot streak, those first 3 of the first 4 weeks winning there, and that helped him a lot gather up a lot of playoff points. Now Bell, I mean, he had a good finish at Darlington, but he didn't really run that. Like the Gibbs cars haven't shown that much speed the last couple weeks, even though Hamlin has won back to back. And that's another deal. Hamlin has capitalized on these times. He did it last year. He fired out the gate. Him and Byron both won races. And like Byron, if he didn't win those races early in the season last year, he wouldn't have made the championship 4 because he went winless the rest of the season. So you kind of really have to strike while the iron's hot with this car, because you have stretches where now Gibbs is the fastest. Now, it used to be like certain teams would be better at certain tracks. Like this team's best at the super speedways. This team's best at the mile and a half this year. But now it seems like it's like month by month basis. Gibbs is the best this month. Penske's the best this month. That kind of thing. So you really got to stack up the playoff points in that moment when that's going down. And yeah, I think you could see a situation where he misses the next round in the playoffs. And maybe they don't have the speed that month, and he misses by a couple points that he could have gotten by winning at Homestead or winning this past week. So yeah, it really comes down to every point with these playoffs. And it's also like Penske is having an opposite season of their normal next gen car season.
Oh, are they?
They kind of are, because they didn't have the speed the first half of last year.
True.
Like they were nowhere close to this kind of speed. You could argue, like with Daytona, Atlanta, they should have won both of those. And then Blaney should have won a couple. And they could easily have like 4 or 5 wins right now. Instead, it's Gibbs with 5 wins, and I don't think they've even been that good yet. So, yeah, it makes me wonder, though, if Penske's this fast now, are they going to fall off later in the season instead of come on hot like they have been.
Could it be
So
our
that's
only
right.
hope? Well,
Yeah.
I will add this. So Blaney and Bubba are both over 7. So Blaney it's minus 7.69 and Bubba at minus 7.29, which again shows they have speed. The next 3 are the only ones over 5, minus 5, and it's Logano, Barry, and Cindric, which are essentially the other 3 Penske cars. Just to show Penske itself has not had good finishes, but they've had good speed. And you can say the same thing for Bubba Wallace, who we sort of talked about at the start. Like, he's been really good this year, but has not gotten great finishes. And that could come to haunt him later. Or it's a sign of, hey, speed is speed. If you keep having speed, then the luck's gonna go your way eventually. Like, that's kind of what we've seen. But I guess that's a waiting to see. Dalton, what do you think about Ryan Blaney so far and his bad luck in terms of not getting the finishes he probably deserves?
Well, I'm gonna start with this. Ryan Blaney having bad luck is not a new thing.
No, it's his career.
That's just been his entire career. If Ryan Blaney could get a break in 1 out of the 3 times he has gotten bad luck, he'd probably have 25 wins by now. But that's not the case. Obviously, this is racing, and it's up to the racing god sometimes. But I will say this: I don't think this is going to hurt him at all. I think he's going to be just fine. I think he'll be okay when it comes time for the postseason, when it comes time for the playoffs. And here's why. Right now, he has 2 top 5s and 3 top 10s. In 2023, by race 8, which is what we're at right now, his championship season in 2023, he had only 1 top 5 and 2 top 10s. So he's going to be just fine, I think. He's actually used, just like you guys have been saying, he's actually used to starting off not strong. All of Penske is, and now they're starting really strong. So I don't know if that's going to mean that suddenly they're going to be bad. They're going to perform bad in the second half of the season, or maybe they're just going to perform even better than what they have in the postseason, because it seems like there's no other team, as funny as it sounds to say, there's no team out there that has figured out the next-gen car better than Team Penske. They have played their cards right to the point where they have won every championship with it. So
I would argue they figured out the format with this car better. I don't know if they figured out this car itself.
So be it. I think, that's probably true. That's 100% correct.
I would say they figured out the format the best than the car itself.
I would agree with that. But regardless, it ends up with championships, and Ryan Blaney's won one of them, and he was close to winning it last year also. He was only 1 spot short. So I think Ryan's going to be just okay. And if anything, all of these losses, losing at Homestead after what was just a dominating performance, losing this weekend after what was a for sure win in his hand with 3 laps to go, I think it's going to fuel the fire underneath him, because we've seen him in this position before, and we're going to see him win a race here really soon. And not to mention, before I hand it back off, we're going to Bristol next week, which is not the best track for him. But then 2 weeks after that, we're going to Talladega, which is a fantastic track for him. So he's got some good events coming up here soon.
Talladega. I mean, he could. You're right. I mean, he won in Iowa, obviously. That's a little later in the season. Feels like Penske is good at all these flat tracks. So Texas, Brian is saying, keep an eye out for him there. I think Blaney gets a win. I mean, I think Logano gets a win and Blaney gets a win. I mean,
I think Blaney gets multiple wins this year.
I think you could argue about the guys we mentioned in terms of the bad finishes but good speed. All could get into victory lane. Granted, already one of them got into victory lane in Josh Berry. One was a champion and one won last year. The other's Ryan Blaney, and Bubba Wallace has been one of the pleasant surprises this year. So all could easily get into victory lane. Noah, I don't think any of us are truly worried about Blaney. It's just more of pointing out, like, if he doesn't win one of those 3 races in the round of 8, and like he's like 2 points short, well, these 2 points could have come from 2 of these races this year where he had the best car. And that's where I worry that it could come back to haunt him. Because you go back, go back to Bell. He was what? Essentially, he was 1 point short. I mean, he technically was more than that because he got dropped 20 seconds, but he was 1 point short at the end of the day. Back at Martinsville.
You're gonna have 4 cars out of the Penske shop make the playoffs. I think. I think Austin Cindric. I think he'll win somewhere.
I think Cindric. If he doesn't win, he's gonna point his way in.
Yeah,
he looks great this year.
He would be in owner points right now.
Oh, yeah, because he's gotten the driver points penalty.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get to our next topic, which is Dalton's, on the one he wanted to do, I do want to shout out My Place Hotels one more time. Great hotel stay. I know Massie has stayed there. My Place is proud to be the official hotel sponsor. Front stretch with plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly hotels. My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Racing fans, you can use promo code FRONTSTRETCH to save 10% off your stay at any of our nationwide properties. That's 10% off nationwide with code FRONTSTRETCH. This racing season, be sure to make My Place your place. Shout out to My Place Hotels, the best in all the land. All right. This weekend, it was Throwback weekend. And Dalton, you got to talk to the drivers this weekend. Obviously, you were at the track at Darlington. Throwback weekend was a topic. And you know what? You wanted to talk about it, and I'm just going to let you cook.
Yeah, it was arguably the biggest story that at least I put out over the weekend. I did get to talk to a lot of drivers over the weekend regarding this, including like during the bullpen, that they have all the drivers coming to the media center. And when I was at Homestead, this all happened when I was at Homestead 2 weeks ago, and I remember somebody, I don't remember who, so I can't give due credit, but somebody asked Chase Elliott, what about Throwback weekend? And he said something along the lines of basically the same thing he said at Darlington on Saturday morning, which was, I think it's lost its luster. It's run its course, so on and so forth.
Roasted in Twitter for like 3 weeks. That might be why he feels that way.
Unbelievably. So I heard that, right? And I remember seeing somewhere on social media over the last couple of days, or excuse me, over the last week, and some folks have said some similar stuff, like maybe it has run its course, and it's like, why are we even doing this anymore?
I'm talking about Chase's Throwback getting like,
well, okay, yeah,
that might be why he feels that way.
Well, I don't think that's the reason why he felt that way. I mean, we saw Kyle Busch defend it, and he doesn't have a Throwback.
I was making a joke.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm making that's a fair point. I mean, his Throwback was not that fantastic, but it's not really his fault. You know, as we've learned over this past weekend, if you listen to what a lot of the drivers have said, Denny Hamlin, Brad Keselowski had great quotes. Both were asked by Jeff Gluck in the media center. He was following a similar story to what I was. And then I asked Alex Bowman as well. You can see that interview on frontstretch.com's YouTube page. But they all said the same thing. They said it's really up to the sponsors. And the problem is that the sponsors, the Cup Series guys, they have these bigger global sponsors. And the problem is that a lot of them have much more specific guidelines to what designs you can use. So it's very rare to see somebody be able to change colors on a car, hence why Chase Elliott was not able to change the Universe colors over into what Ken Schrader's colors were back when his Throwback car was. So it's not Chase's fault. That's kind of the sponsor's call. It's kind of the sponsor's call. But sure. But a lot of
not wrong. If you can't, if they don't want to, right? If they can't match the colors, if they don't want to match the colors, then talk to them about picking a scheme that they can match the colors to.
Well, I don't think they can. That's the problem, is that a sponsor will agree to a certain set of colors and... No,
I'm saying, yes, that's what I'm saying, is that let them agree to a certain set of colors and then figure out the scheme. Like, obviously Ally and HendrickCars.com has a little more freedom, but like they agreed to the colors, but obviously HendrickCars.com is for Kendrick, so of course he was. But
Ally's been really great when it comes to throwbacks.
And Ally threw back to a guy they sponsored, Jimmy Johnson. Like,
yeah, but they've all, according to, but they don't really. It doesn't seem like they really care about the colors. But
DuPont and what is it? Exalta
Exactly.
are the
Yeah.
same company.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to think like of a throwback that matched the colors that wasn't like Sports Clips is red, so it's not it works.
A throwback that matched the colors.
What was Cole Custer's sponsor? Because like they did the
Haas. It
full
was
on
just Haas.
target.
It was
Oh,
Haas.
I think it was
How
Haas.
about Denny Hamlin's Carl
Yeah,
Edwards
but
throwback? It was the
Sports
same
Clips is
colors.
red. Like
Yeah, it's
red
same
is part of their
colors.
color.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying they could have
Oh,
taken
which
the
ones
uniform.
changed the colors?
Yes, to match it.
Oh,
I mean, you can look
Menards.
at like almost
Ryan
every
Blaney.
Xfinity car.
I'd say Ryan
yeah.
Blaney.
I would say Menards is probably the closest.
So look, regardless of how we think about the designs, right?
Just keep going about the bigger picture. I'm sorry for interrupting.
The bigger picture was the topic was, has Throwback Weekend lost its luster? And surprisingly, Chase Elliott and William Byron both said something along the lines of, it's kind of run its course. We're running out of paint schemes. Chase Elliott joked that if we keep going, eventually people are going to be throwing it back to him. And he got roasted on Twitter because of what he said there. So I guess the question now that I get to present is, has Throwback Weekend lost its luster? I personally don't think it has. I don't really care if we have to repeat paint schemes that we've already thrown back to. Austin Centric just did it with Dale Earnhardt's scheme, and that car looked great, and I have no problem with it whatsoever. So I think it's just fine the way it is, but I'm curious as to what you guys think, and I'm curious as to what all the fans out there think, although I've seen a lot of it in the Twitter comments in the last couple of days.
So we're going to talk about this in a second, Noah, about our favorite after this topic real quick. But
Yes.
I think the Xfinity schemes did a better job than the Cubs schemes.
Absolutely. It's because they have smaller sponsors.
Yeah, they have smaller sponsors that give them more freedom, but
they did nail it.
I agree with you, Dalton. I do think that it needs to be an all or nothing kind of thing. And I know that's a very complicated issue. Like, I'm not, we could get a business person in here and say, like, be like, well, this company won't let it. And it's like, well, I just think it needs to be an all or nothing kind of thing. And maybe typically there's themes or eras, but teams don't stick to it. Well, technically you have an approval process of paint schemes by NASCAR, and you can be more strict. I know it's going to piss fans off, but do eras. Like, there are ways to freshen this up without necessarily just saying Throwback Weekend. And I think that one, you need to, you can't be like require it. That's probably the worst way. I would say encourage it more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't say give out points, but like maybe the winner of the best scheme gets like 10 grand or something. I don't know, just like something fun, a fun prize. That would be something cool. I think you would see it like more encouraged, because it seems to me the big issue is that we're now getting less and less teams do it. Whereas when it first started, it was like every team did it. And now it's like, half the field did it. And that's the part I don't like. I kind of want an all or nothing kind of thing. And I'm not going to like be up in arms about teams not doing it, because they have sponsors and the sponsor kind of gets say.
It's really not their fault.
Yeah, it's not like they have no control over it. But there are ways where NASCAR could encourage it more and probably influence sponsors to be like, hey, this is a unique opportunity for you to, display your brand. And I think there are creative ways you can get unique brands into the sport.
I think, didn't the first couple years they actually like announce the winner of the best throwback? Like, did they
still do it?
They still do. Larson won.
They did it this weekend.
Larson won. They tweeted out that Larson won, and then he wrecked like a second later.
It was that. It really was.
It was like
a second later.
It was like a second later.
Yeah.
They tweeted it, and a second later he wrecked.
So, like, did they show that on the broadcast?
I don't think so.
I feel like,
well, the problem they did on the CW. They mentioned how Brennan Poole won best throwback, but I would argue that you can't really do it for the Kyle Larson didn't get a lot of TV time
Yeah.
to be told he was the best scheme, because that's kind of a mid-race thing, and it'd be kind of hard to be like showing the car getting repaired and be like, this is your best paint scheme.
Yeah. I just remember the first couple of years, like it being a big deal who won that. And now it just kind of feels like an afterthought of who won that. So I don't know. I feel like if you announced that in the pre-race, had like an interview, like that's guaranteed TV time for the sponsor to if you win that award.
CW did that.
Yeah. The CW did it right. Get on it, Fox, who somehow just got nominated for a sports Emmy for last year's Daytona 500, where they totally
Shout out to Artie. Shout out to Artie.
Good job, Artie. We like you, Artie. But yeah, I don't know. It's the throwback part has lost its luster. I would agree. It's just how do you keep something like that fresh? But I think every other part of Throwback Weekend is an A+, is really great. Getting the old drivers there to show up, like when they had the 75 greatest drivers thing there presentation, that was awesome. And like Fox getting the Petties and Greg Biffle in the booth, that was really cool. Like, anytime you get Biffle in front of a microphone.
I remember a few years ago they had Ken Squire in there when he was still alive. That was awesome. That was so good. That's how we got that Jones boy.
Jones boy. Yeah.
Shout out to Greg Biffle for keeping up it's Cletus McFarland, right? That's his name.
Yeah.
Like the bet he made, and he has to keep sleeveless, so he rocked the sleeveless shirt, and clearly had no idea what was going on. Shocking, but
Biffle pulls it off. Like he looks like a guy that would go around rocking the sleeveless denim or whatever he's wearing. And then just like the fans getting into it, having the old cars going around the track. There's a lot of cool things that if you go to the race, the track has to offer for you for Throwback Weekend. And I think for that reason alone, we should keep doing it. And I know it was Roger Caruth that said that they should change it to like Retro Weekend. Maybe that puts like less pressure on the teams to have to do like a throwback to a certain driver. Maybe they just do like, here's how and some sponsors already do it. Here's how our company looked in the 70s or something like that.
Yeah, Columbia would be a good like Bubba is sponsored by Columbia. It's kind of hard to do. I don't remember Columbia is a newer sponsor, but like Columbia could throw back to the 80s. That's that was
Jimmy Johnson had a Lowe's throwback in like 2017 that like threw it. It was like an old font, old design. They did a rebrand. It was like a truck or something.
Denny did a throwback to the first FedEx plane. He didn't do a throwback to a car. He did a throwback to the first FedEx plane.
I've seen teams throw it back to a fictional time where their sponsor, like a fictional time period for their sponsor, even though their sponsor didn't exist back then.
Yeah. And it's one of those things I used to not like, but now I'm kind of come around to it because it is. I realize now how much harder it is to get the sponsors to sign off on this stuff. I mean, ideally, in a perfect world, we get this model to where you're not so reliant on sponsorship. You can have season-long sponsors again, and then, bam, you've got these sponsors that are willing to throw away a race to put some old logo, old look on the car. But I think we're a ways off from that, pending a lawsuit that's currently ongoing.
Suits.
Yeah.
So
we're like, face it, we're not gonna like the throwback paint scheme stuff isn't gonna be perfect anytime soon. But I still think there's enough of it to take away and enjoy, like seeing the Cindrix team. Anytime you see the 43 car with the STP look, that was so awesome. And then if we're revealing our favorite throwbacks later, I'll hold off on what my favorite was.
Yes, hold off for a second, for 1 second.
But like, or Nemechek throwing back to his dad. Harrison Burton throwing back to his dad. That was a cool looking one. Like, there's still a lot to take away from these that you can really appreciate, and it gives a spotlight to those smaller Xfinity teams like a Brennan Poole. Like, would they have featured him in the race if he didn't have the best paint scheme? I don't know. So yeah, there's a lot. I think there's still a lot more good than there is negative of Throwback Weekend.
Yeah, I tend to agree. So, all right.
Yeah. Okay.
I was gonna say we got favorite scheme. We're gonna go long today, so we gotta go. Favorite scheme, Dalton.
Oh man, starting off with me, huh? So is this like the whole weekend, or is it Xfinity?
Yeah, we'll do the whole weekend.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell you right now, it's gonna come from the Xfinity series, because those guys absolutely nailed it, you know. And every time I think of all of the schemes that came out of this weekend, the one that comes to mind more than all of the others was Leland Honeyman's Nesquik the 70, the Nesquik yellow and brown car. I thought they absolutely nailed it. What was so funny is that I remember, I think it was it might have been Mike Neff during one of the live race live streams or whatever that we were watching, like the watch alongs or whatever. And Mike Neff said somebody should throw it back to the Nesquik car from Scott Riggs. Oh, the Parker Retzlaff one was also very good.
He said his favorite was the Scott Riggs throwback. That's what he said on Friday or Saturday or Sunday. Whatever
there was a Scott Riggs one with the 017, but that's 70 car.
He was saying the Honeyman scheme was his favorite.
Oh, he was okay. So there was two Scott Riggs throwbacks.
It was the Scott Riggs. Nesquik.
Yeah, but both of them were fantastic. But I keep thinking of that Leland Honeyman car. That car looked fantastic to me. I wish they came with the diecast. I know they're not going to, but that car looked fantastic to me.
We can only wish. Massie, your favorite from the weekend?
My favorite was Josh Berry's. It's a shame it ended up getting into the wall after Tyler Reddick wrecked him. But throwing it back to the 1965 Indy 500, when the Wood brothers pitted Jim Clark's car, 60th anniversary of that. I mean, like, how many teams can actually throw back to something of theirs from 60 years ago? So I just think that's pretty cool. It looked really good. And then the fact that you had the president of Indianapolis Motor Speedway, Doug Bowles, reach out and say, hey, can you guys run this at the Brickyard 400 later this year? And that just shows you how cool of a paint scheme it was.
The Wood brothers had to go to England to get permission to do that.
Really?
Yes. They had to go to England to get permission from Lotus to run that paint scheme.
Yeah.
That's how hard they worked to get that paint scheme. Yeah. I hope they do it again, just like you just said. I hope they do it again at the Brickyard.
Absolutely.
I will say, I did like the Sam Mayer. They like the fact they incorporated the grass on the hood, because that's such an iconic moment from Kurt Busch's celebration. But my favorite is actually Nick Sanchez's to the another Indy 500 throwback to Al Unser Jr.'s. Right? And it was Al Unser Jr. Right? I'm right. All right.
So.
But I just like the light blue looks so cool, and so that was my favorite. I did like how Jamie McMurray got the 3 throwbacks because he's on the CW broadcast, and it's nice that the fact that it's always cool when it's the same sponsor and it's a throwback, so the car looks the exact same. So and ironically, it's the same number. So I would put the Quapo throwback 1 because it's the one car in that orange Bass Pro, and he won the Daytona. I mean, it's the exact same car, not the. So that is where I did. All right. So who did throw it back was William Byron, and he dominated the first 243 laps, which are the most consecutive laps led at Darlington. He did not win because of the one and only green flag pit cycle in the entire race. Cost him essentially the lead and ultimately the win. So my question to you, is it a concern that how bad it was at Darlington for these cars to pass, and the fact that William Byron was able to stay out front for the entirety of that race for first 243 laps and got placed in third, essentially, and was not able to regain it, even though he had the tire advantage over the two in front of him. Massie, you can go first on this one.
Yeah, I think it just shows that you could throw the 20th place car out front on equal tires with everyone, and no one would have been able to pass them. I mean, we saw, like you were talking about, Bubba Wallace, Ryan Preece, they ran up front all day, and they got cycled to the back, and they couldn't regain their ground. Like, Blaney was the only one that was able to pass consistently, and it was ridiculous. And it's because we're in year 4 of this car now, and you've already started everybody inside of a box where they all have the same parts and they all have the same data and SMT looking at the same lines and stuff. And as we go along, that box is just shrinking to where everybody's getting closer to each other setup wise. Everybody's getting closer to each other driving style wise. And here's where we're stuck. Nobody can pass anybody. Like, in the quest for parity, we've achieved the lack of parity because you can't actually pass. So I don't know. Something I feel like with tracks like Darlington, Bristol coming up. If the tire's not the way we saw the fall race, it stunk last year. If the tires aren't the way they were in the spring, this coming weekend, then that's going to stink as well. Something's got to change about the car. Like, the box has to open again to give the teams more leeway so we can get disparity amongst the field and have comers and goers and things like that. Otherwise, I think it's just going to keep getting worse from here.
A jackman shouldn't be the man who decides this race. Like, a picker should, but essentially a jackman who, great interview by Dalton Hopkins, by the way.
It's on our YouTube page.
Yep. That's decided this race at the end. And maybe Denny Hamlin getting on and off pit road by just timing it perfectly as well. I'll give him credit there. But go ahead, Dalton.
I don't think. Look, yes, I'm not saying that the car is perfect, for sure. There's definitely. I agree with Massie in the sense that everything's really close together right now. It's so much parity to the point where it's actually hurting us, but I also don't think that means that this car is bad at Darlington. And I also don't think there's anything wrong with the tires, for sure. I don't think that's what any of you guys are saying. I'm just saying that a lot of people seem to think that I've seen a lot of people say, oh, something needs to change about Darlington. It's like, oh, hold on. Before we get this whole knee-jerk reaction, let's remember the last 5 races we've had at Darlington with this car, or the last 6 races at Darlington we've had this car, and almost all of them were bangers. This is an amazing racetrack that shreds tires, and we don't have a whole lot of those anymore. And I think the reason why we didn't have that much competition up front with a lot of passing is because there wasn't a whole lot of varying pit strategies. Everybody was pitting at the same time. The cautions came out at just the right times where people could pit, or at least they had to pit, and everyone was on the same tire at some point. And look at this, when we had the only green flag cycle of the entire race, look at what happened. Ryan Blaney came back from like the pits of the field to come all the way up to the front and make the pass for the lead with 3 laps to go. I don't know. I thought that was exciting, and it's because we had the green flag run. So I think it's just bad luck. I think that's just all that happens. Every once in a while, you're going to have a race that's a stinker, even at the most best tracks that we've got. And let's not forget, it's not the worst thing in the world that we have a team, that we have a driver spank the field like William Byron did.
That was a unique performance.
That was a very unique performance. And yeah, you could probably chalk it up as, oh, well, it's because of track position and blah, 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 blah. But he also held off a number of drivers on restarts. And the only time he lost the lead was when he had the green flag pit stop cycle and he got shuffled back, and he was like 6 seconds behind Tyler Reddick. So let's not panic, okay? It's just sometimes you're going to have a bad race.
question for you, Dalton. Do you think that if there weren't 2 manufactured cautions in the middle of that race, that it would have been a better race?
I think that about every single race we have.
Yeah. There you go.
I will also say this. It was and Dalton, you can correct me, but I'm pretty sure it was a pretty cloudy day at Darlington.
At the beginning it wasn't. It was hot as hell. But it did get a little bit cloudy later on, yeah.
So I feel like the grip-wise, the track just was cooler, so it didn't take as much, wasn't as slick, and then you didn't have... Darlington is Darlington. It's one of the best tracks. I mentioned last week during Bring the Heat that if you're a race fan, you should go. And I brought up the fact that luckily for us as media, we can be in that turn 1 like deck and just see them dive into turn 1 at full speed. And that's like one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life. Like just especially in racing, because they're truly on the edge. They're truly giving, and like they have to give it all. So I think it's an overreaction to one race. It was also like, as a baseball fan, watching Byron do that stuff, it was like watching a guy do a perfect game. And you didn't want to mention it, but everyone's talking is like, is he going to pull this off? Like, is he going to lead every lap? Like,
there's a part of me that kind of wanted to see it.
I wanted him to.
Like,
I wanted him to do it.
There was an aspect of it, and I thought the race, like, I didn't think the race sucked. Like, I really didn't. I thought it was like, it was fine. Like, I've seen worse. Like, it would have been worse if, like, Byron led 100 and then someone else led 100 and then someone else. Like, we were seeing history unfold. And maybe because I'm a baseball fan and I've, like, being able to watch a perfect game live is, like, insane. Or, like, back in the day, you would get a notification or you'd be watching ESPN and SportsCenter and, like, this pitcher has a perfect game through 7 innings, and they would just cut to the game, and you get to watch, like, the last 3 outs of a perfect game. Like, that's what I was seeing with William Byron. It was like a guy going for a perfect game, and he basically got as close as you can. And I thought that was really cool. Fellas, that will do it for this episode of Happy Hour. Hour 7 of Happy Hour, but whatever. We had fun. Dalton, anything you want to plug before we get on out of here?
Nope, not particularly, because this weekend I will be busy, so I don't have a whole lot going on.
Aren't you gonna write Thinking Out? Are you not writing Thinking Out Loud?
Not this weekend. That'll be going to Anthony, but I'll tell you what. In 3 weeks I will be at Talladega, so stay tuned for that one.
Massie, are you writing?
Yeah. I got an interview with Ty Dillon that I talked to him back in Vegas, and I'll be churning that one out. So look for that on Friday.
I think Casey Mears is going to be our guest on Bring the Heat this week. Brian has to decide. I let him pick his own guest for his podcast. I'm very nice that way. But Bring the Heat confirmed to have Brian Nolan as host.
Whoa.
So get excited for that. Also threw the gears with Wyatt Watson, as he was in our comments as well. And Stock Car Scoop recaps the race at Bristol this weekend, which I don't know who's hosting Stock Car Scoop yet, because Caleb Barnes will be at Bristol. So hopefully he has a plan for that. He hasn't told me his plan. So I might be hosting Stock Car Scoop. We'll find out. But that will do it for this episode of Happy Hour. Thanks so much to our sponsor, My Place Hotels. Reminder, 10% off your next stay when you go to the website, myplacehotels.com, and use promo code FRONTSTRETCH. For Dalton, for Massie, I'm Trey Lyle, signing off for now. See you next week. Reminder, Monday next week, 7:30, right here on the YouTube channel, we'll have the great Kenny Wallace. I know he's pumped for NASCAR going back to the Rock, so we'll be able to talk about that. So mention that. Tell your friends. Monday, 7:30, right here on Twitch, YouTube, and Facebook, live streaming this episode of Happy Hour on Monday next week. Adios for now. Thanks so much for listening.
My Place Hotels is proud to be the official hotel partner of Front Stretch. With plush beds, in-room kitchens, and pet-friendly hotels, My Place makes for the perfect pit stop when traveling. Front Stretch fans can use promo code FRONTSTRETCH to save 10% on your stay at any of our nationwide properties. Sign up for our Stay Rewarded program to get even more savings. With My Place Hotels, don't just stay, stay rewarded.